Hello everyone, I'm Dale Moore. I'm an alcoholic. I am a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. We meet here at the Derry Church on Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays at 7 o'clock. You're welcome to join us if you or a loved one thinks you struggle with alcohol or they struggle with alcohol. We'd love to see you come out and attend one of our meetings and see what we can do. I'm going to start off by reading the Aaa Preamble. The Aaa Preamble says, Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. So I just wanted to read that first, just to let you know that we are a group, a fellowship that meets regularly to help each other to solve this problem that we all have. If you come into the rooms, you probably aren't hanging out in the basement of a church on a Friday night or a Saturday night without having some sort of issue. There's other places you'd rather be, so we meet there. So how did I get here? I started drinking at 12, 13 years old, and that continued on through, really blew up when I was about 15. Had a breakup with a young lady and couldn't sleep, and I had found my solution. I started to drink, and that's where my new love affair with alcohol began, and it continued on for many years. I had been in and out of these rooms since I was about 19 years old, and never achieved any real sobriety because I didn't do the things that were suggested to me. We have 12 steps that were to work and a fellowship to get involved with. And so I would come in, and alcoholism is a three-sided disease that the U.S. government and the health organization has deemed a disease. It's psychological, mental, emotional, and then it's also physical and spiritual. And so I have this physical addiction when I first get here that I don't know how to stop. I can't stop. I put one drink in me and I continue to drink. So that's what was, in the beginning, it was just my solution. It's how I fit in. It's how I dealt with grief. It's how I celebrated victory. It's how I just proceeded through life for a long time. And then over time, that solution quit working. I was no longer happy. It no longer shut the committee off in my head that was telling me I was not good enough, or people were out to get me, or whatever the case may be. So, but that physical, I at some point crossed the line and became physically addicted to alcohol. And with that meaning that I have this phenomenon of craving. I can't put one drink in me without. I don't know when the Hershey Park ride operator is going to let me off the ride when I put that first drink in me. I lose that freedom of choice. My choice starts with I don't put the first drink in me. So I have to keep coming back to these rooms of AA and continue to maintain that and stay away from that have total abstinence and stay away. That's the phenomenon of craving. I just can't put one in and without craving and wanting another. So once I eliminate the drink, now life begins to get a little bit better for a little while because I start to feel better physically, a little bit better mentally. But I don't know what to do with all these emotions that the alcohol used to be my solution for. So now I have these emotions and these feelings coming up, and a whole new, I have to learn a new way of living. And these things crop up, and the stress of keeping a bank account, the stress of getting the kids to where they need to go. If I don't learn these new ways of living, these steps, and find a power greater than myself, which for me is God and is Jesus Christ. That's not what necessarily, as you heard in the preamble, we're not affiliated, allied with any sect, denomination, or organization, but for me, that's what works. So I have to come in here. I work these steps, which I believe lead me into this relationship with God, with Jesus Christ, and but that again is not. We're welcome to everybody. You could be a Hindu, an atheist, a Buddhist, Jewish, whatever it is that you are. You're welcome. So for me, I started drinking early, and because it was my solution, it allowed me to fit in. It allowed all this stuff to stop in my head. It was the answer. And then over time, it progressively became worse to the point where it didn't work, and I wanted to die. I was begging God to kill me, get me sick, end this. I don't know how to stop. And for a lot of years, like I said, I started drinking 12, 13 years old till I was 45 years old. And I woke up on a cold prison cell floor and was removed from my home. And I had a wife and 2 children, and at that time, and I was removed from the house and was never welcome to go back again. Because of my alcoholism, I gave away everything. When I was released from the prison, which I didn't spend any time there, but the first night, by the grace of God, I was in a holding cell and was released till I had hearings and stuff, and by His grace, I was facing felonies and all this other stuff. I was released and never did another day, but I gave away everything. I gave away my home. I gave away my family. Everything that I had worked for, I know exactly where it is. I didn't lose it. It's still the same address in the same town as it was when I was removed. But anyhow, so I kept my job, I kept my truck, and a bag of clothes and a lunchbox was all I had. And I came into these rooms, and for the first time in my life, I started to do the things that this program taught me to do, and suggested to me to do, which is to work the steps. I realized that I was powerless over alcohol, which is step 1, and that my life was unmanageable. Step 2, came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity, because as I walked around the rooms and came into the rooms, I saw people that were laughing and having fun and seemed to be doing something right, and I didn't know what it was, but I just knew that I wanted to have that look in their eyes. I wanted that to be in mine. I wanted that feeling of belonging that they seemed to have, and so I just kept coming back. Step 3 is that I made a conscious decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God as I understood Him. And I wasn't exactly sure how I understood or who this God was when that happened. But I just kept doing what the people suggested. They kept saying, pray, come back to the meetings, pray, call somebody, pray, get involved, pray. They kept telling me that it'll all work out. And if I knew then how it was going to work out, I would have left, because I wanted to get my sorry behind back into the home with my kid's mother and with my family. And I'm here to say that didn't happen. There are relationships restored in AA. There are families brought back together through AA. For me, it didn't look that way. My marriage ended. I have a relationship with my children. My youngest, 12 years old, is still with me on a pretty much a daily basis. She goes to her mother's on the weekends, but we still see each other at softball and soccer and things. And she stays with me Monday through Friday because she goes to school in the town that I live in. So step 4 then, I get to that point, and after making this decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God as I understand Him, I start to clean up and take an inventory of all the stuff, the wreckage from my past. all the people I hurt, the places that I took advantage of, the things that I've done wrong for me, which is my sins. And I clean this stuff all up, and I take this inventory, and then I have this sponsor, this guy. They told me to get a sponsor. He's this guy that takes me through the steps, okay? I did that. He doesn't offer me solutions and answers. He just helps me find my way and find these solutions and answers. So we sit down and we go through these steps, and the fifth step says that I admit to God, to myself, and to another human being the exact natures of my wrongs. That's me and my sponsor, and we sit down and we pray and we go over these things together. Then he tells me to go home and read in this book, Step 6, which is our big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. He tells me to go read Step 6, and became willing to have God remove all these defects of characters. 7, I humbly ask God, to forgive me of my sins. Humbly ask God to remove these defects of character. And I do that. And then Step 8, I have this list of the people that I had harmed that I have to go make apologies to. And not say I'm sorry, because sorry was so watered down when I got here. It was actually just an adjective that described me as a human being. I was just a sorry excuse, a sorry individual, and it was no longer sufficient. It held no weight. So I had to come and I had to ask, what amends can I make? How can I make this right? Because that's what an amendment is. That's what to amend a situation is to make it right. So I have to come to you and say, hey, what have I done that harmed you? Or this is what I know I've done that I've harmed. Is there any other way that I've harmed you? And how can I make this right? I want to make amends. This is what I'm doing in my life. And some of the people don't want to hear it. I have this list at Step 9. It tells me to make the amends where possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. If you drank like me and you did the things that I did, there are people that, 1, don't want to hear it, and 2, there are people that it would affect their marriages, it would affect their families, and so you just stay away and you make it a living amends. You continue to stay sober, you continue to share this solution with other people. So they're the first 9 steps. Then I get into the maintenance steps. Step 10, I take this daily inventory, because life continues to happen and I can continue to step on people's toes. Nowhere does it say in the first 9 steps that I'm going to be perfect and cured, but it does offer me hope and a chance. So Step 10, that when I'm wrong, I have to promptly admit it. I have an argument with somebody at work. I have an argument with my partner, that the lady that I date today. If we have an argument, I have to own my part of it immediately, and make amends for that immediately. Step 11 tells me that I have to, through prayer and meditation, sought to improve my conscious contact with God as I understand Him. And so I have to do that. I start my day in prayer. I end my day in prayer. And any time throughout the day where I feel that I'm off the beam and I'm not at peace with the situation, I'll take the time and I pray and I seek the answer, as to where God's will is for me in that day. And then Step 12 tells me that as having a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, I carry the message to the alcoholic that still suffers. And so that's how I do this. I came down the steps of the rooms of AA, and there was people everywhere that were happy, that seemed joyous and free, that were living a good life. And doesn't mean that they all had mansions on top of the hill and driving Mercedes and things like that. It just meant that they were content, blessed, being right there, being okay right there where they are with God right now, no matter the circumstances. Nobody told me life was going to stop, and so I continue to process through this, and I keep what I have by sponsoring people today. I mentioned earlier I had a sponsor that took me through the steps. I have a sponsor, I have a support group, I sponsor other individuals, and so I'm there, I'm willing. Anytime AA asks me to step up and participate in a function, I try to do that. And so I was asked today by Jack to be here and to do this. And our home group, as I said, meets here Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. The church is gracious enough to allow us to be here. And Jack asked me if I'd come share a little bit about what AA is and what it looks like and what it's done for me and what it looks like as a whole. And of course, I couldn't refuse the opportunity. And so I'm grateful to be here because it's these things that allow me to not go back to that guy I used to be. I took from everybody. I lived at home till I was 31 and had my mother take care of me. And then I met my former wife and the mother of my children. I met her, and she became my grown-up mom until I was removed from the house. And then I had to grow up and take care of life, as best as I could, and had to learn how to do these things. And these rooms taught me that. So when I can give back and when I'm not taken from others today is a tremendous opportunity. So thank you, Jack, for having me here. So that's how I got here and what I did to get out. AA meets all over the country, all over the world. We're made up of home groups, which have different personalities, just like every individual has a different personality. There's 2 meetings that meet here in Hershey. There's one at the Church of the Redeemer at the other end of town, and there's one that we meet here on Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. Nobody governs us. Nobody tells us how our group is to look. We have a group conscience that if you're a home group member, you meet at the business meeting, and you have a vote and a say in how that group's going to look and how we're going to move forward. And so each group has a different format. Each group has different personality and people running the meeting. We operate on a spirit of rotation. I happen to be the group chair at the Hershey group right now for the business meetings, which are the third Wednesday of every month. But when that obligation's up, I may be the coffee maker for the next year or 6 months or whatever, or I may be the treasurer for the next 2 years, or I might be the intergroup rep or the group service rep. So that we operate on a spirit of rotation so that the meeting doesn't become Dale's group of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I roll over the group as a czar. We don't want that. So each group is in a local area, and we happen to be in the Harrisburg area. So it's made up of probably 30 different meetings. I'm just throwing a number out there, but in the Harrisburg area, there's probably 30 different meetings on any given night that you can go to from 7 o'clock in the morning up till 8 or 9 o'clock at night. Now that Zoom and COVID happened, there's Zoom meetings. You can join meetings in Europe or China or Hawaii or wherever at any time of the day. So you have access to meetings 24/7 today through Zoom because some meetings continue to do that. Hershey, at the Hershey group here, we don't do that anymore. We just meet our three meetings. So you have the area group, and then that's all made up of a local. The local is the area. Then you have a larger group, which is several counties. That's Area 59, I believe we're in here in Harrisburg, and that all is covered. You go to we have a area intergroup rep that goes, and then we have a group service rep that goes and represents the whole area. The local is the intergroup, the area is the group service rep. And they go, and they're our voice, they're our vote when they go to a state convention or something. They go there. I think it's EPGSA, Eastern Pennsylvania, that's coming up. They'll go there and they'll vote on changes that AA from a whole above has proposed. So they'll go there and they'll be our voice. That's who, and you're voted into that again. You're nominated and voted in for a 2-year cycle, and then you rotate out. And then of course, AA is a nonprofit organization. We have a 7th tradition that every AA group is fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. But we push money forward, upstream. So it goes from us as a home group. We pay our rent, our literature, our supplies, coffee, candy, whatever you have, literature and whatnot. We buy all that, we pay those bills, and then any monies that we have left over, we push upstream, because no one group should be powerful enough to buy a building and throw big lavish parties and banquets, and that defeats our primary purpose, which is to carry the message to the alcoholic that still suffers, and in some way, one form or another. We all pretended as alcoholics to be something we weren't, so we have to be humbled enough to know where we are. So we pass that money forward, and we do have hired people at the GSO, the Group Service Organization, which is up in New York City. Excuse me. They're hired to print the literature, to do the legal ends of things, to make sure that everybody's following, state and local guidelines or whatever. But again, they don't tell us how to run our meetings. They just print our literature. They handle any of the money that moves forward. It just gets put out into advertisements and literature, basically, and to pay those people that are there to just tidy up the legal ends of things. But they're not there in any form to tell us how we're going to do anything. AA is not affiliated with any rehabs. There's a lot of rehabs that you go to that are for alcoholism or drug addiction or whatever the case may be. But they're not affiliated with a home group. They share our literature. They suggest you find a home group. They suggest you go to meetings, but they're not affiliated with us. So every group is autonomous, and so that's how we like to keep that. So basically, it's a program made up of individual groups that just work together in one form or another to help each other stay sober and free from alcoholism, and to pass that message on to other alcoholics that are still out there lost. So you heard some of what I said about how I ended up here. And like I said, for the last several years of my active alcoholism, I wanted to die. I was begging God to kill me and to end this misery that was on the inside of me, because my solution was no longer working. And so I get here, and never did I anticipate the answers to those prayers would be that I woke up on a cold prison cell floor. And today, it's an honor to say that I'm an alcoholic, because now I know my problem, and this program offered me a solution. It offered me a way out of that terrible abyss of how I was living, and so I crawl up out of there, and I was given this new freedom, this new happiness, because of these 12 steps, and what an opportunity, what a relief, I can't say enough about what this program has done for me, and with having facilities like this that welcome us, that allow us to meet on a regular basis. It's just a tremendous opportunity. Lives are rebuilt. Families, as I said, do come back together. My oldest daughter hasn't told me she loves me in 6 years, and that's okay. 7 years ago, I wouldn't have been okay with that. You know, I'd have been upset, and I'd have been telling her, you need to tell me you love me. I'm your father. You know, that's not the case today. Today, it's okay. I don't know the damage that was done in my act of alcoholism, and so I get to allow her to heal on her own time, and you know, we have a relationship today. We do things together today. My job is to be available. My job is to continue to love her and help guide her through life. She's 19 today, and you know, she'll tell me she loves me on her terms, and in her time, and in God's time, not mine. So then, like my youngest daughter, we have a great relationship. She never really knew me as an active alcoholic. When I was removed from the home, she was only 6 years old, and so she was pretty much clueless of what was going on at that stage. And but today we have a great relationship. I have coached her softball teams in the past. I take her to travel softball and rec softball and soccer, and she lives with me, as I mentioned, Monday through Friday for the most part. Her mother and I, their mother and I have a wonderful relationship as far as raising them together. We work well together in raising them. I don't dictate to her how she's going to do things. We both have our own boundaries, but we do things to the common good for our daughters, and which wouldn't have been prior to me finding these rooms. So I wouldn't have been capable of doing that. I would have made her life a living hell even more than I had already done in our marriage. I don't deserve the relationship I have with her today. You know, it's by God's grace. It's by these meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous that relationship is what it is. Even though we no longer function as husband and wife, we're friends. We can sit together at softball games. We can sit together at soccer games. We can celebrate our daughter's birthdays together. You know, we can have phone conversations. We can help one another, and what a blessing. It's not me. Trust me when I tell you this. It's not me. It's this program. It's my God that allows that to happen. And so relationships are mended. Sometimes not as we would have wanted when we got here. You know. So, geez. I think I pretty much, covered everything. Yeah, Joe.
What would you say to a parent if they're wondering about their 12-year-old? Number one, if they aren't drinking, because the kid probably wouldn't tell them.
Mm-hmm.
And what should they do maybe to foster the right atmosphere?
Well, so when I got here, I thought the alcohol was the problem. And so we have to understand that the alcohol is just a symptom of my disease. The real problem is when I talked about earlier about the spiritual end, about the mental and psychological end. Find out why. What's lacking in that child's life. What are they screaming out for? Unfortunately, in today's society, America is all about the money. Parents are going out and they need to outdo the Joneses and the Smiths. And sometimes your kid just needs you to be mom. They just need you to be dad. They need you to be available. And listen, just hear what they have to say. Let them know what's hurting. Or let them let you know what's hurting them, I'm no child counselor, but
you're going to the sporting events.
Yeah,
that's important.
Yeah, show up, make the meals, have time that you're sitting down with your child and having a dinner, and not just having stuff that's pre-made. I try not to have things that are pre-made that my kid can come home and while I'm out making 2 hours extra overtime, that she can have a meal ready for her till I come home to, or whatever. But just be available for your children. Find out what, if you suspect it, get them I had to do, so I went to counseling outside of here. These steps helped, but I had to go and I had to change everything about me, my whole way of thinking. So I had to do cognitive therapy. I had to change how I looked. No longer do I have to take my kids to softball practice. I get to take my kid to a softball practice. No longer do I have to go to work. I get to go to work, because they didn't have to stand beside me. The most terrible thing is when I walked into the HR office and had to tell them what I had done and why I was arrested, and fully expecting them to ask me to hand them my badge and my keys, but they stood by me, and I had to change everything about how I think and how I act and the people. So, our children have to be trained cognitively to look at things differently, help them know that the whole world, not everybody is going to like you, and that's okay, not everybody is going to be accepting of who you are, but that's okay, be okay in your own skin is the biggest thing that kids, because there's so many expectations on them today, they don't, I would say they just don't, they have to be able to feel safe to find out who they are and find their way. And so.
Yeah. Another question, the society romanticizes alcohol. You see it on TV commercials, on radio commercials, billboards. Does that affect an alcoholic?
I think early on, yes. The neon signs when you drive down the street and you go by a bar or a restaurant that serves, and you see the neon signs, you see the commercials. If you go, I believe yes, it does early on. But we're taught as we grow, and it's been our experience, and it's been my experience, that we no longer we become neutral. I don't think about it. I don't fantasize about it. I don't fear today going to a wedding, where you know how weddings are normally just a big giant party reception. I no longer fear those situations. I no longer fear getting together with people from my past that know who I am, and we go and I can have dinner and conversation, and when I'm done and ready to move on, then I do that, and that's okay, So yeah, early on it affects you, but after a while now, I think if you work the steps and you develop that relationship with God, and you're involved in the service end, and that becomes lifted. I was blessed that because I had begged God for so long to kill me or get me sick, because I didn't know how to stop, that when I woke up from all that, from being released from the prison cell that next morning, I've never had the urge or desire to drink. That didn't know that answer to that prayer was going to happen the way it did, but it did, and forever grateful for it. So, but there are people that struggle with that. Yeah, absolutely.
You sort of answered another question, going to weddings or places where alcohol's all around.
Yeah.
You personally don't have a problem with that, but I would imagine it's a problem for others.
Yes, and you always have to have, take another member of AA with you. Go to a wedding, take someone with you that's a solid member in AA. Have your phone with you that you can call your sponsor. Drive yourself so that you have a way out. Don't go with people that, don't go in a group where there's going to be people who are drinking and you're not, because if you were like me, I didn't care, Jack. If you wanted to leave the wedding and you rode with me, you're just going to have to wait till I'm done drinking. and I'm going to be the last one there, and you're just going to have to hang out and wait. Don't put yourself in that situation. You can go. There's, we can. For us, there's nowhere that you can't go without having a reason to be there. I take my youngest daughter and my oldest daughter, both girls. We go to Phillies games. Used to be a huge drinking event for me. Today I can go and I can watch a ball game. I can drink a water. I can eat a popcorn or eat a burger, and I see people there that it's like, wow, I used to be that guy. More often than not, I don't notice anybody. I notice that most people don't drink the way I drank, but more than anything, I don't have that desire. I don't have that urge anymore to, so we can go anywhere we want to go. We can do what we want to do as long as there's a reason for us to be there, and I'm neutral to it. It doesn't, I no longer am afraid of it, because I know who I am. I know that I don't get to get off that ride if I pick one up.
I'm thinking that when you talk about the urge, that's a hard thing to get rid of. How did you get rid of it?
Again, for me, I think that I had a relationship with God long before I got here and didn't realize it. I just wasn't able to see that God was present and active in my life, and so I had been begging Him for years, literally, crash my truck, blow out a tire, let me hit a tree, whatever, get me sick and end this, because I don't want to do this anymore. I just don't know how to stop. I don't know how to. I can stop on Sunday when I go to bed with every intention that I'm not going to drink on Monday, and truly mean it. I meant it with all my heart that I wasn't going to pick up a drink on Monday after work or whatever. And I'd come home from work, and before I had my boots off my feet from work, I'd have 2 beers in me already. I'd drink a beer per boot, and it was happened that quick. It doesn't take long to take the boots off. And from that point on, I didn't have a choice. So I was blessed at that urge. It's lifted slowly, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. Everybody, just as every person and every individual is unique or different, that happens different for everybody. For me, I was blessed that I didn't have to fight that struggle anymore, because I wrestled that when I was, for so long. I just wanted it to end. I just wanted it to end, and I didn't know how to do it. And I was blessed that when I woke up that next day, I haven't had that urge since.
Wow.
Yeah. But that's not everybody's story.
Yeah.
Everybody's different. So I'm not sure what else to. All I can say, yes, sir.
The other piece of this puzzle is the legal system, and the legal system, I believe, requires people to go into treatment.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't see the treatment as being AA. I believe that is the more psych. I don't. What happens to get the people from these ordered things into your program? What's the pathway, and what's your evaluation of that?
So let's see. One, I was not ordered to go. You're right. There are people that are ordered by court to get into some sort of drug and alcohol recovery program. I guess what I was ordered to do was to sit down with a drug and alcohol counselor and do everything and anything that they told me to do. So I did that. I went and I met with a counselor. She did her eval, and I continued to meet with her. I also went to anger management. And so I kept a list of all the meetings for when I had to go to court that I could show them. But I was never ordered to go to meetings. I was never told by the court system to go to meetings or to a rehab. Just go to see a drug and alcohol counselor and do what they tell you to do. So I met with her weekly for a long time, several years. And so my experience was that I just kept a log of all the meetings I went to. They tell you when you get here, go to 90 meetings in 90 days. I can tell you my schedule looked like Sundays, I went to church in the morning. Sunday afternoon, I went to a 3:30 meeting down the street at the Church of the Redeemer. Sunday evenings, I went to a meeting either in Hummelstown or over in New Cumberland. Mondays, I went to a meeting in Hummelstown, the Concordia group in Hummelstown. Tuesday, I went to Middletown. Wednesdays, I was here. Thursdays, I was in Middletown. Fridays, I was here. Saturdays, some Saturday mornings, I'd be up at 9 o'clock and over in New Cumberland at a meeting at 10 o'clock. Then I'd go to the nooner in Hershey here at the Redeemer at noon, and then I would go here for the two meetings, one at 7 and one at 8 o'clock. And that's how my week looked with meetings for the first several years. I went to rehab twice, not court-ordered, by choice. And rehabs have their purposes. It got me 28 days away from a drink or any other substance. That's all it did for me, because I wasn't ready. I didn't get sober until I was completely broken. Unfortunately, sometimes the law wants you to force it. And does it stay? You can't unhear, you can't unlearn what you've learned and heard. So that seed's there, it messes up your drinking for the rest of your life. So you eventually, for me, because I had been in and out of these rooms for so many years, from 18 to 45, 19 to 45, I was in and out of these rooms, and had some legal issues along the way. Nothing like when I got here and was facing a lot of stuff. But until you're completely broken, you have to find that bottom. Everybody's bottom's different. We have young people that come into meetings that 18, 17, that have never ever had a legal drink in their lives. And they're sober and they don't ever drink again. I know young people that have 13, 15 years of sobriety today that got here at 16, 17 years old. You know, yeah, the law gets involved. We have to sign a paper. A lot of them come up and they have a paper that has to be signed that they attended so many meetings a week, and they have to take it back to their parole officer and things of the such.
So you do validate that for them?
Yes. Some groups are all different. Some groups have the idea that, well, you're just here because you're ordered to, so I'll sign it and you can leave. Here at the Hershey group, you have to stay for the meeting, and we'll sign it at the end, because we do believe that you can't unhear what you've heard, you can't unlearn what you've learned, and it will mess up your drinking for the rest of your life. And that was my story. Yeah, I got here, there was a whole lot of not yets. I hadn't been arrested yet, you know. I hadn't lost a job yet. I hadn't lost a marriage yet, you know. To find out I didn't lose any of that stuff, I gave it all away. I gave a lot of jobs away, you know. I got arrested eventually and was facing a whole lot of major things. I gave away my wife and children, you know. But yeah, so it's everybody has to find that bottom on their own. The law helps you kind of try to find that bottom, you know, but not everybody is willing to. I have an uncle, here's an example, I have an uncle that did. When I was 15 years old, I was involved in a street fight in Harrisburg with my uncle, where my uncle shot and killed a man when I was 15. And he did 15 years in prison. Shot 2 other people on top of the one he killed. He was a raging alcoholic and drug addict. Got out after 15 years and started drinking and using again. You know, it wasn't enough. and he's now back in prison today because of drug and alcohol use. Some people get it, some people don't. I've been blessed. I get all that stuff that was in my deficit column from all that stuff that I told you about in the fourth step that I have to clean up, all that wreckage that I have to make amends for. All that stuff that was there in my deficit column today is in my asset column. We find that there's nothing more powerful than one alcoholic helping another alcoholic. That one alcoholic in an hour can win over the confidence of another alcoholic, because no one knows that pain, that grief, that feeling that's inside of that hopelessness that's inside of us like another alcoholic does. To the normal person, we just don't, what we feel and think doesn't make sense. We see people take a drink with impunity and we scratch our head, how is that possible? For me, it doesn't exist. I have no choice. I pick up my choice is don't pick up the first drink. I pick up that first drink and all bets are off. And, so the law gets involved, and their intentions are well. Excuse me. Their intentions are well, they mean well, but it doesn't always work. There's a lot of examples of people that do come in here that are court ordered, and because they just keep coming back because they have to. As I said, I had a whole lot of not yets. I would urge you to come into a meeting and identify. Don't come in and have the not yets. Come in and identify. Find out why you belong there and not exclude yourself. Would be the example to people. I know people that have 4 or 5 DUIs that come into meetings and they say, but I'm not an alcoholic. My life's not unmanageable. Well, dude, how many cars? Yeah, how many
before you solve it?
Yeah, how many cars have you crashed? How many years have you given? But they don't want to. And it comes down to not everybody's willing to face their shortcomings and accept their end of the. It's a humbling experience to walk down and say, hey, I'm down, I'm an alcoholic. I sat back here in this room where we meet, and if there were people here from my home group, they'd tell you that I'm not lying. 2.5 years, I sat there and I bawled my eyes out. There's people to come in and it's not that way for them and they get sober, but it wasn't that way for me. I bawled my eyes out for 2.5 years because I started drinking when I was 12, 13 years old, and I had the mentality of a 12 or 13-year-old child. And I didn't know how to deal with life. I didn't know. I was clueless. I thought manageability in my early 20s, mid-20s was I had a van that I threw my kayaks on top of, and I had a cooler with food and a cooler with beer and liquor. And Thursday after work, I would leave. I'd go kayaking all over the East Coast, and I just partied from Thursday till Monday morning, and I'd go back to work. And then I'd go to my mom's to do laundry Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and eat her food and mooch off of her until Thursday. Then I'd go off and I'd kayak again for another long weekend. And that was manageability. That was normal. That's what I thought life was. To find out that you can't sustain that forever. You can't do that forever, but yeah.
I would imagine from being an alcoholic to being sober that it also changes personalities of people. Absolutely. I'm not a small fella, and I was my own God. I could will my way through anything. I was mean. I was nasty. I was not
a real sociable person, I could get pretty ugly. That's not who I am today, you know. It's just I've been given a new opportunity in life, and it comes with having that relationship with God, you know. When I realize who I am in Him, and what I mean to Him, and what worth I have to Him, life is good, you know. Yes.
I came late to the early, I missed the early part, so do you go to a lot of meetings still? I mean, you lead the ones here, right?
Yes, yeah. I try to make at least 3 or 4 meetings a week. I'm here for at least one of our home group meetings normally a week, sometimes 2 or 3 of them, just depending on my daughter. Yeah, because I get to be, I was always there physically at my daughter's stuff. I don't know if you were here when I mentioned that I get to coach the softball and stuff today. For some crazy reason back then, they didn't allow me to coach because they wouldn't let me leave the dugout to go get a beer in between innings or something, I don't know, but, so today I get to be involved in my children's lives. And so, I make meetings accordingly to that schedule, but, let's see, a lot of Sundays I go to a big book study in Elizabethtown, or over to Concordia Group in Hummelstown. I live in Elizabethtown, so there's a lot of meetings available there. Last week, I'll give you an example. Last week, Sunday, I was at the big book study in Elizabethtown. Monday, I was down at Mount Joy at Chickies Church at a meeting. Tuesday, I was at a Step and Tradition meeting. Then I didn't get to one Wednesday. I haven't been to one the rest of the week. If I can't make one tonight because of obligation with my daughter for her travel softball team, tomorrow night I'll be over at Chickies. So I try to make 3 to 4 depending on where at. This week I didn't get to come to my home group. Next week, Wednesday, definitely I'll be here. We have a business meeting. I'm the group chair for the business meeting, so I'll be here Wednesday, and I'm also chairing the regular meeting on Wednesday. So I'll be here Wednesday. Monday, I'll be at Chickies. I'm not sure what'll happen Tuesday because Samantha, my daughter, has softball practice in Lebanon. Thursday, practice in Lebanon. So it's fluid. It changes from where I go week to week, but I try to make 3 to 4 meetings a week still.
Are there as many groups then for spouses and significant others as there are for?
No, unfortunately,
Alcoholics?
they're not. There's,
I've heard of them, but.
yeah, Al-Anon or Alateen for teenagers. If you look at the AA website, aaharrisburg.org, you can find the meetings, and there'll be Al-Anon listed and Alateen. Unfortunately, there are not as many, and I believe that there should be, because in many ways our loved ones become sicker than we do because they become so codependent and dancing around us as active alcoholics that they lose self, and they become so dependent upon taking care of us and meeting our needs because we are a needy bunch. And when we're active, when we get out of self and we get here, then we have to find that boundary of taking care of others and taking care of ourselves. But there are meetings, Al-Anon and Alateen, but unfortunately there are not as many out there. So, but they are good for our loved ones to go to. I know a lot of families that were with God, and through those meetings, their families have been restored or maintained and stayed together and have grown and blossomed. We have several people that are members of AA that their spouses come to our open meetings with them, and they go to Al-Anon together. Once an alcoholic, they go, and they work through the steps. A lot of times they end up going to Al-Anon to grow, even because I don't know what I've done to. I'll never know the damage completely that I've done to Jill, my kid's mother, or to my daughters. I'll never ever fully understand and comprehend what went on there, you know. But that allows that opportunity to go to Al-Anon and AA. I can start to kind of get a grasp of it and change and you know, become a better individual and just grow. So
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate the opportunity, and again, if anybody that's listening, if you suspect that you or a loved one is an alcoholic, AAHarrisburg.org, find a meeting and just come in and sit down. Open meetings, if you notice on the schedule it says it's an open meeting, that means anybody is allowed. If you're a doctor and you're hearing this and you're not sure you buy into the whole alcoholism thing, come in and sit down and listen to the meetings and see what's going on for yourself. Pick up a big book and read the first 164 pages and see what Alcoholics Anonymous is about and how we work together to change lives. And, but if you think you have a problem or a loved one does, find a meeting, come in and just come in and identify in, find your way in and fit in, and see what happens. Don't have contempt prior to investigation. So,
Thank you.